If you clicked on this video and you read the title, I am doing a review of Mouthwash. It's great. It's probably one of the best modern psychological horror games out. It's amazingly good game for a low price on top of that. And I highly recommend this to people who like this type of thing and who can handle this type of thing. Because as we get into it, this game gets to some heavy I can't lie, that's what makes this game so charming, to me at least. Because you don't see a lot of games nowadays going to such extreme lengths to show such evil, vile characters. So evil that the internet took upon themselves to not even say the man's name. I've heard him referred to Jambalaya. I've heard the man referred to Jimbo. I've heard the man referred to Jazzy. Anything but his actual name. I might not refer to his name as much in the rest of this video, but when it's time to get serious, we will talk about that guy. But what I like to structure this video by saying off rip, I want to make it clear that what I'm going to review this game off is the character interaction and their backstories. I feel like that's what really sells the game. Because the overall narrative of the game, besides the overarching other narrative of it, this game is telling two completely different messages, but they intertwine very well because sometimes one bleeds into the other because of it. This game is about capitalism and shitty corporation standards, how we get treated by the bigger, higher man. And I can't say the word on YouTube because, oh, you can't say it. I don't want to say, whatever. And grape culture. And you're probably thinking, what does grapes have to do with anything? Take away the G. That's what we're talking about. Well, I don't say we, but that's what the game's talking about. I'm just relaying the information back to you how I see fit. I will now take every character and go through them quickly but effectively, showing how every character interact and how much they affect the situation they're in this game. And we're going from least guilty to most guilty. I like that format because if you're familiar with the Silent Hill series, there's a game called Shattered Memories, and it's very psychological based. And at one point in the game, in your therapy session, they will tell you a story. I'm gonna just paraphrase the story to keep it short, but basically, in the question of this game, the therapist will tell you a story of a princess being sold by the king to marry a prince. They go to a show, a bull's there, the bull show doesn't go well, the bull wants to leave and escape. In the chaos, the bull escapes and kills the princess. Now the therapist will now ask you which person from the king, prince, princess, bull, who is the most guilty to least guilty of the princess and dying. I really like that question, and if you frame Mouthwash as that game adds a new layer to it that I really appreciate from. I will now go from least guilty to most guilty when it comes to why the incident happened on the Pony Express. And with all that out the way, thank you for watching the video. The first character that has nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing to do with what's happened or was continuing to happen in the game is Anya. Like, if you played the game already, you know where this is going. She ain't do nothing wrong. That poor woman went through so much stress and hell. And one thing about this game is you get told events of games happening out of order. 1 minute it's X amount of days before the crash. 1 minute it'll be months after the crash. Hell, there'll be towards the end it'll be like 3 hours for judgment, which is presumably when you run out of air, or you know how the game is if you played it. But they tell you out of story. And with Anya's case, I really like that because I'm gonna come forward and say this right now. I was unfortunately spoiled about Mouthwash. How could you not? Everybody's talking about this game and I like it. When I finally played it, I knew what happened to poor Anya. I knew she got, you know what, the hell with censorship. I knew she got assaulted by a man named Jim. I'm not gonna meme, I'm gonna say the fucker's name because he's a piece of shit. She got assaulted by a man named Jimmy who's on the ship. Jimmy is your friend of Curly. He's the captain. Jimmy's the co-captain. And there's two other men on the ship with those two people I mentioned. So just to clarify, Anya's on a ship in space was nowhere to go, was 4 other men. Granted, all these men, well, except for Jimmy, all these men are normal. She has nothing to worry about. But if I was a woman trapped in a spaceship in space where no one can hear you scream, yeah, I would be nervous. And she's a nervous wreck throughout the game. But you know what's really good about this game is, again, as mentioned, is the pacing of it. God, the pacing of this game is so good. When you play the events, Anya seems a little nervous and she's high strung. It's very stressful, which is another common theme, is how people handle stress. She has to keep the crew alive because she's a designated nurse. She has to keep them healthy and do the best that she can. And throughout the game, she keeps getting more and more nervous, more and more stressful as things fall apart, which no one would falter for that. No one would at all falter for going under pressure for the things going on in this game. And that makes perfect sense. I will say, at some points, Jimmy proceeds to get more and more violent and angry towards her, calling her stupid, saying you can't do this and take responsibility and stuff like that. Now, when you first played the game, even when you're spoiled about what happened and who did it, you're thinking, okay, did this happen post-wreck? Did this happen whenever? Did it happen at the very end for some weird reason? Did Jimmy just lose his mind? No. When you get, I want to say 80% through the game, you find out that Anya told Curly 2 days before the crash that, I don't even like saying his name, that Jimmy did what he did. It was disgusting. It was just vile, disgusting, and heinous. And that's what he did. So poor Anya. That happened before everything went to shit. So you can't even make the excuse like, oh, maybe the stress made him go insane and that's why he did what he did. Nope. Jimmy's always has been and always will be a problem. And there's an allegory for that, how Curly, again, because she told Curly. And Curly's response was, well, I know him. He would never do that, which is a disgusting thing to say, by the way. But hey, man, whatever. That's your friend. And I'm using friend in quotations, by the way. Just, that's your guy, that's your pal, that's your buddy. I've known him for a long time. He would never do this. Awful, horrible, horrible way of thinking. And that is what, I hate saying this, but fucking YouTube. And that is what grape culture is. And that's a really good message the game is trying to tell people. While yes, sure, Curly, Daisuke, and Swanson, while they're all not, assaulters like Jimbo is, right? Nobody's bad as Jambalaya. Nobody is. However, when you let those type of men do that shit and you don't correct it, you're just as bad, if not worse, because you could have stopped something. The game tells you in big, bold, red letters, take responsibility. That's all you have to do was make a stand right then and there. But Curly, respectfully, he bitched out. And now poor Anya has to deal with it. So that's why I think after playing the game as a whole and probably replaying it and you're seeing in the background in this video, that's why I personally believe she's the least guilty out of everything in this game. Now, you can make an argument while we go into the second least character about Daisuke. The way his story ends in this game is very sad. I'm not going to cover how Anya's story ends until we get to Jimbo, because I want you to really understand what Jimmy did to this poor woman. What she did causes Daisuke to unfortunately get heavily wounded, which then gets pushed down by Swanson. Now Daisuke, he's a good kid. He's the second least most gullible person. However, due to his, being barely an adult, being on a job he has no right being in because he has zero experience, he's not much help. He can't really do much. So while yes, it's not his fault, he don't know no better, but he really shouldn't have been there. Swanson says that a couple times, like, what are you even doing here? You were at it last minute. We don't need you here. Now, there's nothing really deep about that in the sense of in a corporate setting, but what I will say that is super deep about the capitalism metaphor, as mentioned at the beginning of this video, Daisuke was literally chewed and ate by the corporate machine. A machine made by the corporation, Pony Express, the ship they're on, was faulty and dangerous and horrible. And because of the crash they had caused by a certain someone, that unfortunately it was just the end for poor Daisuke. And because he was naive and he was peer pressured into Jimmy to crawl into said vent, it was not going to be a good time for him. It was just a poor situation for Daisuke. He was just a kid in a really shitty situation where he shouldn't be there to begin with. His parents made him get the job, which is a very extreme case in my opinion. Like, your first job is going into space is wild, but this is this timeline, which makes it more sad, but whatever. And it's just, that's why I feel like he's second blameless in all of this. He tried the best he could. Sure, he probably was annoying and he didn't really understand what was going on and he was just trying to play dumb and play cool, but at the same time, what can you really do when you're in both Daisuke and Anya's situation? They did the best they could. They are the MVPs of the whole ship from start to tragic end. They were the MVPs, and for that, I really feel bad for them. I really do. So I'm sorry to make Daisuke's section so short, but that's kind of like, no pun intended, like his life. It was short. That's Daisuke. He was just a kid who wasn't supposed to be there, and sometime that's just how the dice rolls. And as we go into our next character with Swanson, what can I say about good old Swanson? Other than Swanson being the realest man in fiction I've ever seen. Now, you may be saying, why is he the realest man? Because he admits towards the end of his section that his happiest time in life was being a piece of shit. To me, Swanson also represents another part of like a man's mental on average. A lot of men will get jaded and old, especially if they had a troubled past. And Swanson straight up says he had a troubled past. He suffered badly with alcoholism. He spent 13 years, I guess, when he could start drinking as an alcoholic. Then one day he said he saw a light in the street. I'm paraphrasing, by the way, because his speech is amazing. Please look it up. His speech is up there with Mary's letter. It's just the best thing you'll ever hear in a game like that. It's just top notch. Because in that very speech, Swanson lays out his whole life. He's telling you that his happiest moments was just being a complete scumbag. He liked drinking, he liked being blacked out, and all that other stuff was just fun to him, and that was his happiest life. When he tried to do the right thing, he wasn't fulfilled. It didn't make him a better person. He just felt bitter and hateful. As you can see in the game, he's always snapping at Daisuke, which, sure, we know that secretly he really had a heart of gold for the most part, and he cared about Daisuke, but he's just what a lot of people become, just jaded and just burned out through life. He's not really happy. The first chance he gets when they finally run out of food and they look at the cargo, see what they were hauling, it was mouthwash. When he read it was 60% ethanol, which is alcohol, he just started chugging it to get drunk because he just broke his sobriety, because he says might as well, if he's gonna die. He doesn't care anymore. And that's why his attitude doesn't really help the situation they were in. And it doesn't also help the fact that he lied about having a cryopod. He refused to really help while Jimbo was trying to help in his own fucked up way. He just tapped out early. The moment it went bad, he gave up, which again, as you're seeing occurring theme, is I get it. In a situation like that, there's not much you can do. He just flat out gave up, and there's not much I can do about that. And if I was in his situation, Anya's situation, or Daisuke's situation, I get it. I really do, and I feel bad for all three of them. Now, let's get to the main star of this video. The whole reason why I made this, because I've been seeing people discuss a lot of people's morality when it comes to these two characters. Let's talk about Curly, because while yes, he's not the reason for all the people's problem, he's not off the hook. Curly was warned about Jimmy. Jimmy has a history of being a shitty person already. He can't really keep a job. Curly got him this job as co-pilot when he really isn't experienced, and when they do the mental eval, Curly just lies for him. Jimmy was a liability the whole time. The whole time. Jimmy was never a good person. Just because you knew him for a long time doesn't mean you should excuse his shitty behavior. Every time Jimmy gets reprimanded for something he did and he rightfully gets scolded, who does he go bitching and crying to? He goes to Curly. And for some reason, Curly constantly enables him. He is an enabler. His enabling cost the lives of 5 people. Wait, can I do math right now? Yes, 5 people. Sorry, it's late right now. If there's one thing I can give Curly that I feel like that is still a positive, is yes, he tried to look at the brighter side of a lot of things. However, staring at bright things can still damage your eyes. So he shouldn't always look at the bright side, especially when dealing with somebody as vile as Jimmy. Absolute disgusting piece of shit human being. That is the point of this game. Yes, we play as Jimmy for most of the game, but the sections we play as Curly and there's a problem in our face, we don't do anything. And you know who will enlighten us in that very concept? When Anya and Curly are both in, I want to say, the lounge by themselves, or if it was in the infirmary, which is ironic given what's about to happen to Curly. They're talking about how every night they stare at the screen to help themselves sleep. Curly doesn't really like doing that because he feels fake, but Anya does it to be, just to be helpful and lighten the mood, because again, she's doing her fucking best. And Anya remarks that if you stare hard enough, you'll see a dead pixel. It's on the screen there all the time. You just got to look to see it. And Curly saying, I don't really see it, and I probably won't even notice it if it was in my face. If that's not the most blatant allegory for Jimmy, then I don't know what is. Curly literally said he wouldn't even notice if it was in his face, and it's true. Because, to double back to Anya and how she ended, due to the assault, she wound up being pregnant. Anya told Curly this. And again, enabling him, Curly told they'll get through this. There's no getting through this. She is pregnant with her abuser's child in fucking space. And we know it takes a couple years, at least a year, to get from point A to point B. So she's stuck there with an extra person for not the food for ration. So let's think about that rationally. She don't have the resources for another baby. None of y'all do. And then this is after the crash. There's nothing you can do about that. And again, the fucking abuser is still there. He's still on the ship, which is just, I don't even know what to, I can't even fathom that type of horror anybody would go through. You're stuck somewhere in a confined space with your abuser. Yeah, that can be an allegory for a toxic relationship, being stuck at home, or you got a kid together so you can't leave, but that's a new level of layer and hell I could even imagine that poor woman had to go through. So that's why at the end of her story, that's how she ends it. When she's finally fed up with taking care of Curly, who, due to Jimmy, crashed the ship, and he's just a living vegetable, which I don't want to say because I don't know if that's cool to say anymore, but it is what it is. But he's still a living vegetable. He can't do anything. He can't blink. He can't move his lips. He has no skin, barely has limbs. He's just a nub on a bed. There's not much she could do. They're running out of medicine. And then when confronted by Jimmy, who again, they're all drinking mouthwash and they're kind of getting drunk. She stunk was a drunk man. When she locked herself in medbay with Curly, she said, "This is the happiest I've been," or at least the calmest she's been. It is not her worst moment, but she's finally gonna fix it. And unfortunately, she took pills and overdosed and ended her life. That's how her story ends. It's because she couldn't do it anymore. And you can make the argument she left Curly behind, but that's Curly's punishment. He had to sit there and watch her do that because he's awake and conscious for all this. He can't really sleep like that. And that is his punishment. Just like he did while his full able body, he just sat there and watched. So that's all he can do is sit there and watch. You know, I would feel bad for somebody to go through that because seeing somebody you're cool with like that is tragic. But unfortunately, because it's Curly and he refused to take responsibility, that's just how the dice rolls, and he had to lie. He literally had to lie in the bed he made. And it's very tragic, but it's true. And unfortunately, for some of us, a lot of us are Curly without knowing it. A lot of us let our friends do shit, let it slide, and we don't correct it. I've been very fortunate to be dealt with people like this where I say, "Nah, you on your own. I don't do that shit." I'm sure some of you've probably unfortunately had a friend do some fucked up shit you have to cut them off for. I hope it's not as bad as Jimmy, which, hey, it's real life. If you've had a Jimmy in your life, I'm sorry you had to deal with that, both as if you were the victim or you were the friend of said person. Nobody wants to go through that, but hey, I'll just hope you cut that motherfucker off. And since I said his name 3 times and he pops in like Beetlejuice, let's go ahead and verbally abuse Jimbo for a second, because he's the most guilty out of all this. As mentioned, Curly was informed about the pregnancy, and Curly was gonna just sweep it under the rug and try his best after the end of the shift, or I say shift, end of the shipment. Now Anya decided to tell Jimmy. I could be getting this wrong. If I'm getting it wrong, please tell me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure Anya's the one who told Jimmy she was pregnant. And Jimmy's first instinct is to immediately try to crash the ship. That's why we're in this mess. Jimmy couldn't take responsibility for not keeping in his fucking pants. Therefore, his best option was like, well, let's just kill ourselves. They can't arrest me if I'm dead. I can't be a father if I'm dead. She can't tell anybody if I'm dead. And he has the audacity to crash the ship. That's why Curly is in the situation he's in now. That's why Anya's in the situation he's in now. That's why Daisuke gets hurt, because the vents are fucked up from him crashing. Sure, the vents already messed up, but the crash didn't make it any better. That's why Swansea broke his sobriety. Everybody's issues that got really bad was because of Jimmy. Jimmy is the problem. Jimmy is a dead pixel. He's there. He's not working. That's like another thing about dead pixels. They don't work. They just sit there and they ruin everything they touch. He is a problem. He never should have been on the ship. Curly should never put him on the ship. Hell, when I say that out loud, now I really think about it, Curly might be the most problematic person on the ship. Had Curly taken responsibility before they even launched, he never would have been there. But nope, he couldn't do it to his poor friend Jimbo. And I think that's just disgusting. I really hate Jimmy. I could not stand Jimmy after the reveal. Because like I said, I was spoiled. I already knew what Jimmy did. And I the whole time was like, ugh, I feel grimy. I really did. But I was sitting there waiting for like, so when does it get known that Jimmy did what he did? And when I found out at, like I said, 80% through the game, that Jimmy committed this heinous, disgusting, vile fucking act before shit went bad, I hated him even more. Because in my brain, as you know, I love Silent Hill. I love horror games. I can sympathize, well, not sympathize, I can understand a villain who was probably not the best person at the start, but because of situations, they went off the deep end, right? I can kind of get that. Think the bully from Stranger Things. He was a piece of shit, but then when he got possessed, he doubled down. Or think, I can't think of it. I want to say Frederick Krueger started off like that. Sure, he was a bad guy, but the town accused him of being a pedophile, and then he got killed. And then he became what he became. So I get it with Freddy, at least early Freddy. I think current Freddy is actually a pedophile, but whatever, my point still stands. And stuff like that. Jason was a bully disabled kid, and now he became what he became. And I understand it. But Jimmy, there's never a reason to do this act. I want to make that very clear. I don't want nobody thinking I'm trying to excuse that kind of crime. That shit gets no love from me whatsoever. You do that shit, I want you. Oh no. personally. I don't even know if I can say it on YouTube, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud. I don't care. I think you need to be respectfully, disrespectfully, actually, just to make that completely clear. He doesn't do shit. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just the whole game. And the fact that he did it before it got bad, you can't even lie to yourself if you did it. You can die. You can die 1,000 deaths. Get hit with the Akuma ult. I hate you, Jimmy. I really genuinely do. And I love that for this game. I love they made a character you can hate so well. It's not very often you get a villain like, oh, well, maybe they did this, maybe they did that. No. Just there's no saving you, Jimmy. Horrible. And the fact that a character like Jimmy has a savior complex is just the extra salt in the wound. Because he really when Anya said, no, I think he even said it. I think he butchered what Anya was trying to say, where he said, like, our worst moment don't define us. And when he said that, I'm thinking, okay, so what made you do what you did? And then it was before that, it's like, that's disgusting. You sat there and try to play it off, and that's disgusting. And I love when Swansea gets informed about the assault in front of Jimmy. He's like, yep, just trying to keep my composure. Swansea was gonna murder him the first chance he got, or at the very least snitch to him to the cops when he got off the ship. And I love that for Swansea, I really do. But ooh, God, Jimmy, you really, if I can break the flow of the video real quick and stop talking about the characters and start talking about just how men, women, they, them, straight, gay, bi, whatever, we cannot stand people like Jimmy. But unfortunately, a lot of us may be a curly and not know it. And that sucks, because when shit hit the fan, you may not know what to do. A lot of us will say, oh yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. But when it is your best friend like Jimmy, at least that's how Curly fucking acts like it, what do? I have a best friend. I love him to death. He's probably gonna see this video and make a stupid ass comment on it. So if you see him, tell him hello. And if he does some shit like this, if you hear this video, and I know you will, I'm beating dog shit out of you. And I hope you do the same for me if I ever do some shit like this. That's what Curly's supposed to, or at least tell the goddamn cops, not say we're gonna get through this. No, there is no getting through this. That nigga needs to die. Boot him off the ship, imposter style. Get him off, vote the kick, anything, please. And I'm sorry for getting off on a tangent like that, but it needs to be stated how this game is very thought-provoking, and I love that. It gets people talking about things. That is talking about uncomfortable situations. And honestly, as corny and cringy this might sound to some of you who might hear this, I want this game as a preparation for what not to do when it comes to taking responsibility. Because everybody was responsible for themselves or others in this game, and they all handled it poorly, including the ones that were innocent. But again, I understand why they handled it poorly, because of the situation they were in. And I just cannot stress it more than enough that you should go and play this game. Obviously, this was spoiler filled. Sorry about it. I will put a warning in the description in the video that this was a spoiler review. But this was kind of like fresh off the head. This is not a super heavily scripted one. I basically freestyled most of this, so I apologize. But feel free to recommend me more games like this so I can yap about. I love this type of shit, I really do. And I don't normally do this, but can we get a fuck you Jimmy chant going on in the comment section? Some guy's probably gonna post like, use me as the hate you Jimmy button. Can we get that down there, please? Because I can't stand this guy, bro. Goated villain character. I love it. I really do. And a side note, I just want to mention this to the guy who recommended this. I know you're watching my video. We're cool and everything, but I just want to get this out there. You told me that Jimmy was like an Eddie character or a BoJack character, where they do shitty things, but you feel bad for them. We need to have a talk outside of the classroom, sir. Because what do you mean I'm supposed to feel bad for Jimmy? Why? Why would I ever feel bad for Jimmy? He know what the fuck he did. I don't feel bad for that loser. God, no. And another thing I want to just put a full stop to this shit on the internet real quick, saying Curly is morally gray. Yeah, he's technically morally gray, because at the end of the day, he did everything what he thought was his best intentions, try to look out for everybody. But again, you're not supposed to look out for everybody, especially like people like, Jimbo over here. So yeah, he's morally gray, but he's not on the level of James, where James is like dead center morally gray. Curly's more pushing dark gray. Like, yeah, I get it, but holy shit, dog, fucking grow a pair. I just had to get that last two out there. But if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I'm so sorry for rambling. I love this game. Please play this game. I cannot hype it up anymore. Please do. Love it to death. And on that note, I will see you in the next one. Peace.